mother-in-law, she got fed up because she had loved her father so much. But child, I think that's all. I don't like to talk about it at all. Because every year it brings back new memory.
We hope that persons would come forward so that we can find out the truth of that period in our history and report accurately.
Time doesn't heal all wounds. It was so brutal. It was so unexpected. Sometimes I think it's just a bad dream.
And I got 7 AK bullets. Right now, I'm wounded. I have more than 100 pieces of shrapnel in my body. And up to now, I never get the opportunity to really declare what really go on, you know.
Even though you were one of the crowd at the fort, so what? Guns fired and people ran. Where is the truth from anybody now coming and say they saw this or they heard that? It doesn't make sense.
You know, when I travel abroad, and I travel quite a bit, they say to me, well, has Grenada settled down? This is in 2001. We got to clear up that image abroad.
It was in this very square, which for the most part is surrounded by a mystical one. Tuesday, September 4th, 2001 was the day that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was installed, after being sworn in by Governor General Sir Daniel Williams. The Grenadian Commission follows the one established in South Africa after the dissolution of the apartheid system. In South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission investigated 7 key areas that were prominent features of the apartheid system: the armed forces, the media, political organizations, the police force, the private business sector, churches, and racially motivated social groups.
We do consider the establishment of this commission into certain political events which occurred in Grenada during the period 1976 to 1991, and in accordance with terms of reference of our commission. Mr. Chairman, I am sure that we will succeed. Speaking for myself, I am sure because I am a friend of Grenada and of the people of Grenada.
And so I look forward very much to my membership of this commission. I believe we shall have a lot of goodwill, because there's been a lot of expectancy about this, and now it's come. And we should not sort of marginalize it or be cynical about it. I believe that we are here to help to fashion the future history of this nation and to determine its image abroad. You know, when I travel abroad, and I travel quite a bit, they say to me, well, has Grenada settled down? This is in 2001. We got to clear up that image abroad.
The fact of the matter is that to a very large extent, the heart of Grenada is still bleeding, and its soul is still wounded as a result of some of those unfortunate events. In light of this, it is necessary and vitally important to get to the bottom of what happened and why they happened.
I hope that people would take advantage of this opportunity and come before the commission. As a distinguished chairman said earlier, we are not a court of law, neither are we on a witch hunt. So we hope that persons would come forward so that we can find out the truth of that period in our history and report accurately. I feel very honored to be part of it, and as I said before, I would do my best to discharge my duties. My duties involve facilitating the overall functioning of the Secretariat and the running of the commission, receiving the memoranda, and inviting persons to come forward to give evidence orally as well.
Immediately after the announcement was made concerning the TRC, citizens who have been affected in some way by the period under investigation have responded.
I don't welcome it at all. I think it's a waste of time and a waste of money. I think that to have what is called a Truth and Reconciliation Commission at this time would create more division in the society than it will ever heal or close. And I think that what people should be doing or thinking about in terms of reconciliation would be to forgiving, forgetting, and giving people, as it were, time to recollect their own thoughts as personal experiences rather than try to open the wounds, especially in the years between 1979 and 1983.
I think it is long overdue. I think that the Grenadian people have an opportunity to really come forward because there are a lot of Grenadians who have information, who over the years have been scared to come forward. They have been so hurt and so demoralized by the events of October 1983 that they have never really spoken about these events. I think that the opportunity that is being given now would be part of the healing process. Because when you undergo psychological trauma, the kind that we have undergone in October 1983 and beyond, the process that is unfolding now is one that would give Grenadians an opportunity to speak about it, to let off some of that pent up emotion that they had over the years. And certainly the truth will set us free. And at the end of the day, Grenadians would feel a lot freer within themselves in terms of having unleashed that energy by giving information and giving the country a chance to really go forward.
My husband was killed, but at least I got his body to bury. And I satisfy. God knows best. At least I think our Lord, my people was not our Lord. But he was crucified. But still, his mother got his body to bury. That's what I know. I heard. I was taught. Okay. Mm. I can't say anything more. The president now there is too much to be said and too much space.
As outlined in the terms of reference of the Commission, the period under review starts from January 1st, 1976 to the 31st of December 1991, with specific emphasis on the Grenada Revolution, March 13th, 1979 to October 19th, 1983.
The trauma of that horrific period is deeply implanted on the minds of many of us. It was a period when brother fought against brother, sister against sister, and friend against friend. Many questions pertaining to that period 1979 to 1983 still remain unanswered. It is hoped that the Commission will be able to find some answers to those questions. Careful note must be taken of the main objectives of the proposed exercise of the Commission. The commissioners are mandated to A, seek to uncover the truth, B, to provide the nation with a proper and comprehensive understanding of those political events so that any mistakes made in the past may not be repeated. And I repeat that. To provide the nation with a proper and comprehensive understanding of those political events so that any mistakes made in the past may not be repeated.
At the press conference that followed the launch, one of the immediate questions to be fired at the members was whether or not the United States of America, Cuba, and other outside influences involved in that particular period will be summoned before the Commission to give testimony.
We, of course, would have to learn some lessons from the South African situation. But of course, it is also very likely that we will take into account the peculiarities of the Grenadian situation, which of course is very important to do so. members of the public or anyone who considers, whether in Grenada or out of Grenada, as you mentioned, who feel that they can cast some light upon the events that happened and are willing to share this information with the commission will, of course, be welcome to do so. I understand that that advertisements will be placed in the public media, inviting persons to submit memoranda and to come forward to give oral evidence. We hope and we expect that, of course, these advertisements will be seen both in Grenada and out of Grenada.
I think the process would not be complete if there were not some kind of involvement of the Americans and the 17 who are in prison. It would also not be complete without some involvement from the Cubans. So if you're going to get at the truth, it must not be a half-hearted truth. It must not be a watered-down truth. It must be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And all of the key players who are involved in that period must be given that opportunity to come forward. But I don't know how we are going to get the Americans to do so if they are unwilling to participate. But I'm certain that from the point of view of the Cubans, if I may speak to on their behalf, I'm sure they'll be willing and ready to give any kind of information that would be required of them to ensure that this process is a completely impartial process and that at the end of the day it helps the Grenadian people to go forward.
We've had ample evidence that after the shooting on the 4th, soldiers took the bodies down to Calivine some way. They were burnt and they were buried in a common grave. We know that. If anybody say otherwise now, then we have to accept that what was said before was a lie. And I don't think that's valid because that came out in the case. It's properly documented. The story was that after the Americans came, after the 25th of October, they got certain remains down in Calivine. You know, the readers know, the public knows that those remains have been tested. They were brought back to Washington. We had endless reports. 2 years ago, we had the college boys doing some sort of a research, and they said they found bones in the cemetery. Oh, come on. All sorts of scientists, forensic and otherwise, have had to deal with it. What truth that could tell us now any particular bone belonged to Maurice Bishop or Norris Bain or Jacqueline Cleft? We are not making sense.
We also do not know about the documents that the United States took out of Grenada. Very important pieces of our history. Documentation of what took place in Grenada in that period. Why were they taken away in the first case? And why have they not been returned since? All of these are lingering questions that need to be answered. Who gave the orders for the people to be liquidated and brutally executed on Fort Rupert in October of 1983? All of these are still questions that need to be answered for the benefit of the Grenadian population. I believe that these aspects surely can be put to rest. Surely they can bring some closure, but the fact that the bodies have never been identified, we have never gotten any closer up to this point, despite all of the hype a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, at the close of the last millennium, when we believed that there was some information leading to the recovery of the remains. Up to now, 2 years have practically passed, and we still do not know what happened in the cemetery, what remains were recovered from the cemetery. In fact, what happened to the remains of Maurice Bishop and others is a modern-day mystery that has to be solved at some point in time.
Brother Robert Fanovich, the current principal of the Presentation College and the school that housed many of the revolutionary figures during their adolescent years in school, has been working on a project for the last 2 years. His project is to help in the healing process of the nation by seeking to find out what exactly happened to the lost bodies, shared with us his own thoughts and feelings on the commission.
I'm concerned about the effectiveness of the commission. Not that I doubt the sincerity of the commission, but from my experience and in working on a project to bring closure to the events of 1979 to 83, there is still a lot of fear in Grenada. People are just not willing to come forward. And I'm talking about somebody who has been working for 2 years on a project, trying to get facts, trying to put the pieces together. I still find there is a lot of fear and hesitancy in coming forward with facts and information.
What we are going to do here is dig up old muck. A lot of it going to be hearsay. People who were not there, unless you were a soldier at Calivini. How could you give the truth? Even though you were one of the crowd at the fort. So what? Guns fired and people ran. Where is the truth from anybody now coming and say they saw this or they heard that? It doesn't make sense. And I don't believe that I'm not saying the Americans were not involved in certain things. I don't know. I wasn't there. But you'd have to have their soldiers to give you that truth, not our people. Because I don't think we had our people with them when they were doing what they were doing at Calivini.
Our focus really has been primarily to bring peace to the families. And we think that one of the burning questions right now is what happened to the body of Morris Bishop and his colleagues. They mysteriously disappeared in 1983. And we have been working on that for 2 years. And we are making some progress. And soon we are working on publishing a book with the findings. I am hoping that the commission would benefit from our findings and our research for the past 2 years, even in terms of the body bags that were discovered in December 1999. And what came out of that, I'm sure many Grenadians would like to know, many international figures would like to know, the international community would like to know. And I think many people would also like to know what happened to their former prime minister, what happened to Jacqueline Creft, what happened to Hailing and Brat Bullen and so on.
Another concern raised by the public and affected individuals is whether or not the Grenada 17 would be summoned before the Commission, since they too have been an integral part of one of the key periods under review.
Everybody who you hear talk about this now, the two issue is the guys in jail and the guys in jail. Nothing else. You might seek Phyllis Code as a second issue, but that has nothing to do with truth and reconciliation. That is people having there's two sides. If you accept that Code and others should be released, you're on one side, as I am. If you accept they should stay in jail for the rest of their natural lives, that's the other side. That's a matter of opinion. No truth, no evidence from no one could change that.
The big secret is I don't know. The big secret is I would like to know. That is the secret. That is what worries me now. Why they telling me something else now? Don't tell me nothing else. I'm sorry. The people up there don't know the truth. They don't know what they done with Mary's body. No? If they can't say the truth, why I must say I don't know the truth? All the people that was on the fort that saw and things like that. Eh? They saw and they heard. A lot of people heard. When I was after they killed Morris, they came to this house. They ransacked, they took what they wanted. If I was there, I would have been killed. My brother took me away. When they came the evening and they told me Morris was released, I did not know what was taking place after until the night when I heard Austin on the radio talking about the curfew, and then they give us 1 day after to go and shop. The day I went to a food fair to get something, I saw a lady with a bag of onion, a pound of onion in her trolley. I said, well, if I had seen that, I would take one too. She said, Mrs. Bishop, you are more deserving. And she gave it to me. Eh? I know that lady.
The 17 on the Hill, they have valuable information that would certainly shed a lot of light on what took place on the fort. what took place even prior to that fateful day that led to the demise of our revolution and the physical liquidation of one of the finest prime ministers and probably the finest prime minister that this country has ever produced, and whose remains up to now we don't know anything about. The Americans certainly would be in a position to provide some kind of information that would lead to the recovery of these remains. I believe that they have some information that has not been forthcoming in the last 17 years, and maybe that commission would be given that opportunity to get at that information, and particularly as it relates to the involvement of the Americans in that whole process. Because a lot of these things did take place, the disappearance of the remains, after the Americans came in.
Persons from all over the country, and indeed Grenadians abroad, will be free to participate. There's a 6-month period for the inquiry, and there is a period of 3 months for the report thereafter, giving the Commission a reasonable time span in case the time limit isn't met. But I look forward to the full participation of the public, truthful evidence, full disclosure.
If people don't have some kind of guarantee as to their safety, as to what will happen after they give evidence, they just will not come forward with it. I think there are a lot of people who know quite a bit, but are really afraid. And we have to remember that Grenada is a small place. And I think that people are afraid if they come forward with information that they will certainly be criticized, if not persecuted. So I think the commission has to look at that. What sort of guarantees would people get if they come forward with information?
This special edition of Focal Point will return after these messages from our sponsors.
These are the only television pictures of that demonstration. The crowd is seen jamming the roads up to the fort. When the PRA arrives in armored personnel carriers, machine gun fire breaks out. Morris Bishop was executed inside the building, as many of his supporters escaped by jumping 30 to 50 feet off the cliff behind the fort. Still, there is debate about whether these people supported the Bishop Revolution. Major task at this moment is to protect and defend our country against any attack by imperialism. Anyone who seeks to demonstrate or disturb the peace will be shot.
So I look forward very much to my membership of this commission. I believe we shall have a lot of goodwill because there's been a lot of expectancy about this, and now it's come. And we should not sort of marginalize it or be cynical about it. I believe that we are here to help to fashion the future history of this nation and to determine its image abroad. When I travel abroad, and I travel quite a bit, they say to me, well, has Grenada settled down? This is in 2001. We got to clear up that image abroad.
Before the break, the question of the Grenada 17 was raised and whether or not they would be part of the process. However, in an interview with the Grenada Broadcasting Network 9 months ago, one of the leading revolutionary figures, Bernard Cord, accepted full responsibility for the events of October 1983.
I still don't understand why there's so much reluctance to hand over the remains. What is the big secret? What is it really behind it? I still don't understand. Of course, I don't know where it is or whatever it is, but there must be something somewhere. Well, I thought the word apologize was inappropriate. If they had said they were sorry, it would sound more appropriate. I mean, if you mash somebody's foot, you say, I'm sorry. You apologize. Well, you could say, yes, you apologize. But to kill somebody and say you apologize, that's not good enough. That's not good enough.
And one of the key events that is expected to come under the Commissioner's microscope is the 1976 murder of Rupert Bishop, an event that historians consider to be as helping to create necessary conditions for the 1979 revolution.
We're trying to imitate here or piggyback, if you like, on what happened in South Africa. And I don't think the same things apply. South Africa, we are talking of centuries of racialism, apartheid, the most devilish kind of policy ever. What happened in Grenada was political, pure and simple. The Gary regime was being opposed by the Jewel from 1972 until 1979. Gary regime was overthrown by coup d'etat, revolution, call it what you like. The revolution destroyed itself because it was wrong itself by the things it did when people expected it to live up to the promises we made. And I accept I was part of it when we made those promises. And they didn't. And as the good book says, evil might go on for long, but it can't go on forever. And it destroyed itself. I don't see why we have to go after 18, 19 years and put people in a public forum, which everybody listening to me must know. Once you give those people the opportunity, it's not going to be truth and reconciliation. It's going to be revenge, vindictiveness, hatred. In other words, people are going to be getting their own back, and this is not the time.
I know my husband was killed, but at least I got his body to bury. And I satisfied. God knows best. At least I think our Lord, my people was not our Lord. But he was crucified. But still, his mother got his body to bury. That's what I know. I heard. I was taught. Okay. Mm. I can't say anything more. The president knows there's too much to be said and too much space.
The object of the exercise is not to force anyone, because if you're getting at the truth, most times if you exercise other measures, you don't get at the truth. So, as indicated, also, it's not a court as such. And although the commission could regulate its own procedure, they would prefer voluntariness and persons coming forward with the truth and not by any coercive or other means be forced to give evidence. So basically, the objective is full cooperation of the public, recognizing the value of the exercise for the nation as a whole, and coming forward voluntarily.
Well, the instruments do state that the hearing will be for a 6-month period or within a reasonable period thereafter. Also, the report is earmarked to be for over a 3-month period, but within a reasonable period thereafter.
But I hope enough people would have enough sense that they don't go there and try to make the thing worse than it is by using what I assume is going to be a lot of it, this gossip and hearsay, and try to make it look as though it's truth. Truth is a funny word. And the fact that people take an oath has nothing to do with truth. I mean, I know this. I'm in a courthouse almost every day. But what is sad about that is there are still 19 or 17 persons in jail. They've been there 18 years. The revolution had 3,000 detainees in prison, and thousands upon thousands of Grenadians took part. You mean to tell me that of all that went on, only 19 persons paying for all that happened in Grenada? Matter for the commission.
With regards to how much the commission will cost, the government has some idea about the estimate, but I am not prepared to make a statement on this at this time.
The terms of reference, when I heard it on the radio or television, said that the commission is going to last for 6 months. It's going to be going around the country, getting memorandum from people in Grenada, even from overseas, because a lot of people have moved. And then it's going to take 3 months after that to write up a report and make recommendations. That's going to be a lot of money. You're not going to have two priests and a lawyer, a renowned lawyer, a good friend, Trotman from Guyana, sitting for 6 months plus 3 months writing a report for peanuts. They got to be paid. Hotels got to be paid. Meals. It's going to cost a lot of money. In my opinion, that money could have been better spent on the schools we have problems with. How many schools cannot open this term because they're in dilapidated conditions? some that have been built, we've had to be doing other things in Guelph, for example, to bring the school into operation. There's so many other areas we can use that money rather than going and give people an opportunity to be vindictive and to be revengeful, because that's all we're going to get. You mark my words, we are not going to be getting truth. We're going to be getting people trying to wash dirty linens in public and have their own back after all these years.
I also question the period, the 6-month period, because judging from ourselves, we have not been working, I have to admit, admittedly, we have not been working consistently on the project. But reason being that sometimes you set up an appointment for an interview and the person doesn't show up and you have to wait, or the person goes away, or the person is busy. You have to meet them at their time and you have to be bold. Most of the information that I have gotten, it wasn't people coming to me, but me making the effort and going to them. And I think it's something that the commission should keep in mind, that people will not come to them. They have to make the effort to go out and to reach the people. It's a very difficult process. And as I said before, I don't expect long lines outside the commission office with people prepared to give information. And we're prepared to share with the commission whatever we know.
I want to know how much money it costs in the government to do that, because I could do it $1 million right now. You see, CD are selling things hard here now. I could do with the money where they take in to do that. If they want to let go them fellas in my book, they could let them go. If they want to lock them up, they could lock them up. All I consider right now, I poor and I want money. I think closure has to come from when we understand the whole issue of tolerance and, as I said, forgiveness. Closure would not come because people say, I forgive, but don't forget. And if we cannot forget, we still remember. So the hurt, the pain is still there. And I believe that we need to take a different trend, a different approach to this whole thing. I think I love you, you love me, and the society promote forgiveness and love and peace and so on. That will gonna be a better exercise in this whole process.
Well, this is very important because this thing been lingering for too long. And I personally, I've been a political prisoner and I got 7 AK bullet. Right now, I'm wounded. I have more than 100 pieces of shrapnel in my body. And up to now, I never get the opportunity to really declare what really go on, And many other people who never get the opportunity to declare what really happened, I'm sure they will love to get that opportunity. So that whole movement, what is setting up there is very important. I believe it will really reveal good portion of the hidden facts. So I personally support it. And I also hope that people come forward, not because I was a political prisoner. I have no hatred for no one. I have no intention for no revenge. But the facts must be made straight because plenty people was accused wrongfully.
In my humble opinion, I feel it's a waste of time, waste of money to bring back they already know what they have to do and they should just get on and doing it. My understanding is that after the trial on the Hill, that all the evidence went to the Privy Council and they reviewed the evidence. And it was clearly showing that the evidence was one-sided. It was taken on one side. It was not a fair trial. And they advised the government, to my understanding, they advised the government that is 2 things that they can do. One is to give these guys a retrial or to free them.
Apart from the general population of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, the persons that would want closure more than any one of us are the families of the slain Prime Minister, together with his other colleagues and the other patriotic citizens who would have lost their lives, together with the many hundreds of persons during the period under scrutiny.
I thought, as they say, time heals all wounds, but it's not really true. Time doesn't heal all wounds. It was so brutal. It was so unexpected. that sometimes I think it's just a bad dream. But the truth is, as my mom says, we were hoping that we would get remains so that we could have a burial, because that's the normal procedure in Grenada. You bury someone when they die.
Healing has got to be personal. Grenada is a state. It's a inanimate object, if you like. We have to heal. Each of us have to be healed as individuals. It's the individuals that make up the country, the state, whatever you call it. And until and unless, as individuals, we come to accept that we have to forgive people who do us wrong. I have been done a lot of wrong. I spent 2 years and 3 months in jail. I forgave the people who put me there, even when I was there 1 month. I've carried no bitterness. I've carried no vindictiveness. People made mistakes. They were wrong. I knew they were wrong. I came out of jail. I pick up the pieces. I'm on my feet.
Oh Lord, she got fed up because she had loved her father so much. Michelle, I think that's all. I don't like to talk about it at all because every year it brings back new memories.
We have 2 priests in it and law, or maybe they might have something from a confessional that might be different from what we get from a judge. I don't know. But I have a lot of doubts about the whole process. I wish it didn't happen, but I can't stop it.
Well, I think it is fair to say that I've been one of the first people to call for some sort of commission into the events of particularly the period of October 1983. I made this call maybe about 2 years ago for George at one of the commemoration activities for October the 19th. And I think what we really need is more a truth commission than a reconciliation commission. If you want to call it Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I have no problem with it. Reconciliation presupposes that we have a lot of deep differences in the society, which polarize the society to the point where we need to reconcile these differences or to come to grips with these differences. I don't believe that is the situation.
According to Senator Lawrence Joseph, the government, who will have to rest the final nuts and bolts into place in the process of national unity and reconciliation, says some of its final recommendations were as follows.
If those guys should be tried and convicted for what happened on the fort, why shouldn't the revolution, the PRG 26, be tried for those guys who were killed at Mount Rich in Sates? For the guy that was killed in Union in St. Mark? For Strawn Philip that was gunned down in Mount Airy? For the guys who died on the park in Queen's Park in June 19. That was no revolutionaries or counters. It was a setup to make the revolution look as though it was under attack. Nobody was charged for that. In fact, they picked up the wrong guys and incarcerated them, Kenny Budlal and others, and they had nothing to do with it. They executed Strawn Philip because of that. Strawn Philip was not there. So when we're talking about criminals and murderers and so on, people are forgetting that they are using standards that suit them. And to me, that is more unconscionable than the fact of people saying, leave the murderers in jail. It's far more unconscionable. I go to Richmond Hill Prison with our church choir from Guelph every year. Sometimes we go twice a year. So we're part of the prison ministry, if you like. And we take a lot of young people. We take some old ones. This year we took only men, because we have a men group in our church in Guelph. And we go there and we do a service, we sing, we interact, we bring refreshments. The persons who go there with me were not in any revolution. They look forward to going, and when they go and they meet the guys, they see them as no demons. And I usually try and canvass their opinions afterwards. Some of them are surprised that the guys are who they are as they look at. Don't get me wrong and think that I think they're all little infant Jesus Christ. They did a lot of wrong things. And maybe in that sense, they're paying for the wrong, not in the sense of murder. I have a lot of different of opinion on this so-called murder. But another instance that perhaps makes me feel that the Grenada public would talk for a while, but would do not much else, is that 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, when Signal Lamentine got 6 or 8 of them, give him a day off from Richmond Hill, and he took them to the St. Dominic Church in Penmuter for Mass. And I checked the reaction afterwards. And the people, that's the ordinary people in St. David's, in St. Dominic's Church, they welcomed them, they were hugging and treating them like they were long-lost brothers. They provided refreshments. It was an open forum, and they were treated like anybody else. I can't remember getting any reaction where anybody, even after the Mass, was saying anything uncivil or revengeful. Now, clearly there are people out there. There's absolutely no doubt. I've seen some letters in the press. In fact, I've got one this week where people see the 17 as enemies. And that is because the Grenada Revolution became divided in 1983, which culminated in 19th of October. So there was one side, if you would like, the Maurice Bishop side. There was one side called the Codeites, or the Code side. It is my view, and Leslie P. and I keep saying that for years, if the Maurice Bishop side didn't get gunned down, the Code or Codite side would have gotten gunned down. Not that I believe that Bernard Code and Selwyn and so what, the fourth shooting anybody. Their guilt was supposedly bestowed on them by the fact that they gave orders, so the saying goes. I have a lot of reservation about that. But the point I am making is, the revolution at that time had divided itself down the middle. And what transpired was not, in my view, the case of murder as we understand it.
Healing also requires truth and reconciliation. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was launched in September of 2001 and was expected to present its findings within a period of 6 months. To date, no official pronouncement of the findings has been made. In a telephone conversation with Secretary Claudette Joseph, she said the chairman would contact us on his return to the island in a matter of 2 weeks.
There are two things that have stuck out in my memory. One, as principal of Cottonton College in Barbados, I was invited by the Caribbean Conference of Churches with 2 other colleagues to come to Grenada in the late 1970s to examine the situation. And this meant an interview with the then Eric Geary and others. And that report has been lodged with CCC, and we shall return to that report. The next experience I've had was then as warden, student counselor at the Cayfield campus of the University of the West Indies, when in October 1983, there was the whole upheaval here and the carnage. My particular responsibility was to keep the students sane and sober on that campus. I remember that night I never slept. I had to farm out the students with different families. They were wondering where their parents and grandparents, they heard all kinds of news. And I will never forget that night in my whole life. And so I come to this commission with great commitment to this nation. Grenada is a wonderful place. If you told me that anything like that could have happened in Grenada, I would say no.
We do not want to get into the legalities of the case surrounding the 19 because, of course, there is a case before the courts now that has been filed. But in your legal opinion, why do you think, though, the 17 should be released?
But to begin with, I had no problem with the judgment that was given by Mr. Justice Ali regarding the first 3, the guys who were just convicted for manslaughter.
Right.
I agreed with his judgment. Of course, the judgment has been appealed and a decision is awaited from the Court of Appeal. And I can't make that decision, that's for the court. As for the other 14 guys, my firm, sincere and complete opinion is they have paid more than the due debt to society. They've been there now nearly 19 years. That's calendar years. When you transcribe that down into jail years, there's 26 or something years. I think that's more than enough. Because those guys, as I said before, were not in the normal range of criminals in the sense that they were in a political situation. Two sides were fighting against each other. It happens that those on the Morris Bishop side died, and those that were supporting Bernard Cook and others lived. What always bothers me or sets me thinking, if Morris Bishop side, the guys who were on the fort, had managed to shoot down the guys who were coming up to the fort with the armored cars or whatever, and then got Bernard Cook and others and killed them, because that's clearly what was going to happen, one against the other. I oftentimes wonder how the same persons who are now making those hypocritical, and I say without any fear of contradiction, it's hypocritical, claim that the people who shot the people at the fort were criminals. I wonder how they would have reacted if Morris Bishop and others were then arrested, charged for murder, and put in jail. I am absolutely certain not one of them who are making the converse noise would have said, leave them in jail to rot. So in that sense, I say it's hypocritical. I think people must accept, and we were all involved, even the persons now who lost loved ones and whatever, we must accept that something went wrong, badly wrong. Persons were killed that should never have been. But that applies to all who died, from the smallest child at Queen's Park on the 19th of June, right down to those colleagues of mine, friends, who died on the 19th of October on Fort Rupert.
But what about the victims' families? They continue to lament the fact that they have not received full closure from the events in October.
Lord, we ask you also to remember in your mercy the families of the persons who lost their lives, either here as they jumped off these walls, or those who perished in the scorching perils at Calavini. The pain and suffering experienced by those of us who lost fathers, husbands, brothers, grandsons, mothers, wives, daughters, sisters, granddaughters, nephews and nieces, and other relatives and friends have been great to bear. The hardships and deprivation we have suffered as a result of our loss have been unbearable, many too themselves dying because of the consequences of the heartache, pain and suffering due to the tragic loss of our loved ones who were the breadwinners in our families. Our pain was made even greater due to the denial of our basic human right to give our loved ones a decent Christian burial, and thereby put to closure this tragedy that occurred in our lives.
This place that we are standing on, as far as I'm concerned, is holy ground. Because strong people, it was the stronger people who died. Strong people. We're remembering Morris Bishop and all of the others, the names I have called, not because they were weak, but because they were strong. Because they had a vision, because they provided leadership, because they led by example, because they taught us several lessons, because they showed us what is said to be impossible was indeed possible. And they gave us hope in this country. And they gave us reasons for being alive. They told us that it was possible to include the rank and file of the nation in decision making. They told us that it was possible to get the smallest child to participate. They told us that the way to solve conflict was through dialogue, tolerance, and respect.
Ironically, there were a number of political faces at Saturday's memorial. Tillman Thomas, Dr. Francis Alexis, Dr. Terence Marichaud, now the General Secretary of the People's Labour Movement, former political leader of the Morris Bishop Patriotic Movement, and Kenny Lal Singh. The debate continues when we return after these messages. Welcome back to Focal Point. One of the interesting debates that have been occurring with relation to the October 19th travesty is the re-emergence of, quote, ex-RNC elements into the political fold of the National Democratic Congress. Persons like George Prime, Peter David, Nazim Burke, and Ferron Lowe were all part of the revolutionary process. We approached Peter David and Nazim Burke to seek answers. When were you promoted as Minister of Finance?
I have to say to you, first of all, that this document that you are referring to, I've never seen it up until this moment. But I was promoted or announced to be a minister in government, not in the aftermath of October the 19th. I think that should be made very clear. This announcement was made, I believe, on October the 11th or the 12th. And it was an announcement that was made at a time when, on the same day that Bernard Cord announced that he was resigning as a member of government. He had resigned from the Central Committee before that, and we of the party who were not members of the Central Committee, in fact, were not aware of this, although we learned subsequently he had resigned from the Central Committee and the Politburo of the party even 1 year before the September and October events of 1983. But following, on October the 11th or the 12th, I don't remember the exact date, he resigned as a minister of government and as Minister of Finance. And it was at that time that it was announced that I was being promoted to the rank of Minister of Finance. Now, that resignation, as I understood it by Bernard, was initiated by what then broke out as a rumor suggesting that Bernard Cord and Phyllis Cord had plans or arrangements or an intention to eliminate Maurice Bishop. And on the basis of that rumor, as it then broke, I don't know the source of the rumor, but as it then broke, Bernard resigned. And I received notification from Johnny Ventu at the time, that the Central Committee had taken the decision to promote me to the rank of Minister of Government.
As in all of the other activities, on October the 19th, I was at the radio station in the morning. I left the radio station at about 10 or 11 that morning. I was out of the station early in the morning, and I saw the activities around town. I was driving through town, and then I went back to the radio station. And while we were at the radio station, we understood that some people were going to storm the radio station, so we decided to evacuate the radio station and leave it. And we left the radio station that morning. And I was up at Butler House for some time. That was the Prime Minister's office. It was also the Ministry of Information. And I also had an office, because at that time I had also become the Deputy Secretary for Information. And I had an office at Butler House, and we spent the morning at Butler House. I was not at Fort Rupert at all that morning. And as for knowledge as to what took place on October 19th, I have as much knowledge of most people in terms of the actual events of October 19th.
There was never any animosity from our side, and certainly from my side, as far as Maurice was concerned. We were just as ignorant as the population was, those of us who were not members of the Central Committee, of what was happening. So I think, I'll tell you the truth, in my assessment, it is a deliberate and deceitful attempt by those who think that they will be able to secure political power by creating this scaremongering to suggest that somehow Peter David or Nazim Burke is responsible for the death of Maurice Bishop, or responsible for the disposal of his body, or responsible for the crisis, or in some way had some kind of criminal responsibility surrounding what happened. I am neither morally nor criminally responsible for what happened. And I walk around Grenada with a free and clear conscience at all stages. I can say without any qualification, I've never shot off a gun in my life. I've never killed a chicken in my life. And if anyone can bring evidence to say that I've killed a chicken, bring that evidence.
The fact is, October 19th, while we understand the gravity of the tragedy, remains as one of the most significant days in our national history. Unfortunately, every post-revolutionary government has failed to recognize October 19th and March 13th as two important days, and instead has declared October 25th as a national holiday, a day which was primarily focused on rescuing the students of the St. George's University, who were believed to be under siege by the then Revolutionary Military Council. I posed this question to Senator Yolande Bain, now that she is part of government.
would you be lobbying your government to observe October 19th as a public holiday, knowing that you are one of the affected families?
Well, I always thought of that, and my family have thought of it on many occasions. But I want to say that I will do my best in my best power to see how we can have October 19th as a holiday. I think it's significant. It's needed to be a holiday. We celebrate the 25th of October, and I believe that we should look towards celebrating the 19th of October as a holiday when our loved ones, has passed away.
We remember them today in a kind of sheepish way. I am always perplexed by the fact that October 25th is a public holiday in Grenada and October 19th is hardly mentioned. I am perplexed. We celebrate Columbus Day. We celebrate all kinds of Queen's birthday. And yet the people whose vision for this country was like no other, we do not celebrate anything for them. I am perplexed. We, the people of Grenada, must do something about that.
As we continue to lament the demise of the Grenada Revolution, one thing remains certain, that the revolution was seen as the most progressive period politically, socially, and economically by many thinkers and academics of our time. In fact, the Grenada Revolution was able to procure the largest volume of books and publications in the Eastern Caribbean, and the spirit of progressive thinkers like Maurice Bishop continue to live in the hearts and minds of many Grenadians, both home and abroad. I'm Kellan Bub saying, long live. Hi everyone, thanks for checking out the Bub Report's social media pages. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch our weekly live show, follow our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch repeat episodes on Wednesdays at 4 and 5 p.m. respectively on CRFM Radio and GBN TV in Grenada. We are also viewed on Sundays at 8 p.m. on WPG 10 throughout the Caribbean. Thanks for watching.